So what we are saying is that Gen Zs actually need us. They may not show like they need us, but in reality, what people say kwa ground, you know, they need our help. Now, learners come to school as a people too. That is something that I really want to emphasize, that these students come to school not just to be taught, but they are also coming with different issues. Like as a teacher, you as the teacher, do you also have your own issues that you think you need a chaplain? Welcome back to the Chaplain's Mic, and this is episode 3 of my conversation with my friend Nancy. Nancy is a teacher. I was a teacher with her, and we loved teaching. She still loves teaching, and I transitioned into chaplaincy. And I think in the previous episode, I talked about how the transition happened and everything in between. You could go back and watch that, and then come see now us talk about this episode that we will be dealing with chaplaincy in teaching. Now, Nancy, I want to introduce you into chaplaincy. I know I have talked to you about chaplaincy a lot when I was in school, but basically, chaplaincy is the ministry of presence. You are present, you are listening to people, not to reply to them or to respond to them, but you are holding space to them and you are listening to really listen. I want to start with a very quick question to you. Have you ever had a very low moment as a teacher?
Yes.
Yes. Are you okay with sharing one of the lowest moments you have had as a teacher?
Yeah, I think one of my lowest moments, there are several, but I think one for me would be when a student that comes in and they go out after like 4 years, and probably you see that they have not become everything that probably they would become. And so that really, being the teacher and the passionate Malim that I am, becomes very low for me. And it really bothers me, even being in that space of a teacher, because most times you, as a teacher, your clients are the students. And so when the student is not, maybe like you think they would have actualized more than what they become, then that really is a very low moment for me.
It's like you have seen they have a great destiny, and then the destiny is just snatched from them, and then they just end up being in this mediocre space, and you wonder, did I do my best and all that. Now, as a teacher, I hope you know that you are also a caregiver. And what I love about the institution we worked with you is that the students we worked with actually were students who needed care also, apart from just being a teacher. Now, learners come to school as a people too. That is something that I really want to emphasize, that these students come to school not just to be taught, but they are also coming with different issues. What are some of the issues as a teacher you have witnessed among students, and you look at it and you tell yourself, this one needs more than just me being a teacher?
Yeah. There are several. I mean, if it's because I've also taught in a boys' school. It's a crisis sometimes, the adolescent crisis.
Yes.
And it's very natural for a few kids, and it's during that time sometimes they're losing it. Sometimes it's a very crucial time for them to really be studying and maybe excelling in other activities, but then they're not. It's a girl, for example, girls having very things that they want to share, or rather someone to be there for them beyond the classroom. It's those things, yes.
So you look at a student, for example, they are coming to school and they are coming from a broken family. Some of them don't even have a family to start with.
Yes.
Some of them have just been rescued and they have been in children's home for a long time.
Yes.
You look at these students who sometimes they walk in and they are just shy because probably they had parents, but they are very harsh parents, or some of them just have low self-esteem from how the primary school teachers handled them.
Yes.
You and I know how sometimes some of the teachers project their issues to students.
Because also it was passed on to them.
Yeah.
And so you find this learner, they're coming in and they... there's something that is really not aligning because of something they went through, in the previous years. Yes.
And sometimes they are reliving that experience and they just want a place where they can be accepted, they can be listened to, they can be guided, And there is something about the Gen Zs. You and I are working with Gen Zs.
Yeah.
There is this notion that we always assume that Gen Zs don't need counseling. They don't need attention. They have ChatGPT, they can get all information. What is your take on that?
Oh my God. My take is that Gen Zs, there's a need. There's a need for them to, oh my God, if we allow the Gen Zs to go, the online way. I think for me, even being as a parent of one of the Gen Zs, one of the kids, one of my child is actually 14 or 15. I think what as a teacher, as a mom, as a parent, I would love for my son is for them to have, this space or whatever it is that is away from the gadgets, that is away from the screens, for them to just have conversations or whatever that is, very authentic spaces. I think the place of, after or beyond gadgets should be there in schools.
So what we are saying is that Gen Zs actually need us. They may not show like they need us, but in reality, what people say qua ground, they need our help. They need that person who can be there. They need that person who can listen to them. They need that person who can stand up for them, and they need that person who can be authentic. I mentioned in the other episode that if there is something I loved about Jason myself, my former employer, is that he was very authentic and open and genuine about his life, So Gen Zs love that. They love when you are just you. And I was just remembering how we talked about how we met and how I was bubbly and just that is just me, just being myself. And I think there is a place for us to know that we can be ourselves even in this generation and shape them and help them because they are also struggling with their own issues. Now, as a teacher, do you think now speaking as a teacher, not in terms of you being a teacher to a student, but being a teacher, the employee, do you think you need chaplaincy services?
Absolutely.
Do you think you need someone to listen to you and all that? As teachers, we always have things figured out.
No. We need to have that.
Yes.
In terms of you're asking that what is the place of chaplaincy, for example, in a teacher? In a teacher. Like as a teacher, you as the teacher,
Do you also have your own issues that you think you need a chaplain without having the learners? Like you as a person, you as Nancy, you have come to school, you are coming to teach. Do you think you need chaplaincy services?
Every other day, and especially Mondays. And especially for the married people. Because you are a person. Just like we've said that the Gen Zs need people and they need someone to be there for them. Even, me the teacher or us the teacher, we need someone. We need that person that would bring or would be there for us, would come and just say things. And like they say, the old people say, or they say a problem shared is half solved. It's absolutely a need. And especially for even young teachers today, that sometimes they're in a crisis, they're going through something they need to talk to someone about, and just listen, to just be there. Absolutely.
And I want to say this: the institution you are working in may not, quote unquote, be in a position to hire a chaplain, for example. But I'm just thinking about it as colleagues, as a person who is a whole person and dealing with issues. You know, you can also choose to be a chaplain to someone.
You can.
And we will talk about the place of training later. But I just want to bring it out that you can actually be a chaplain to someone. You know, later on you came to know that I struggled with depression.
Yes.
And you remember how you are so intentional now, even more intentional about supporting me.
Yes.
You see? So as a school, you can actually grow a community that is authentic. Not this community that is always witch hunting people, looking for loopholes to point out mistakes and all this. You can actually be a chaplain to someone.
You can. And I think for me, Deborah, just to say this is that, and you and I know that it's beyond the classroom activities that would propel even these learners to excellence. And so it's the chaplaincy that you do, you know, unconsciously. It's the listening that you do, it's the guiding, it's the spiritual work you have with a learner that you think you need to work with, that you do, you know, just doing it. And sometimes it's that what you do that pushes them to become beyond the grades.
And I want us to talk about it, to just mention this, that when you receive a learner, you know, now I'm a chaplain, I'm in a different space, but you are a teacher, and I really want you to speak into the heart of teachers, that when they receive students, these students need more care sometimes than teaching, because we are modeling their future. We have been talking about purpose. In the previous episode, I quoted the scripture: all things happen for good for those who love the Lord and are called according to his purpose. You know, there's something about purpose. This student is good at biology. You teach biology and agriculture, but there is something beyond the biology and agriculture. There is a great person in this student that is more than just books, you know, and that is where chaplaincy comes in. All of us as teachers, as caregivers, wherever God has placed you, you can actually be that to a learner. I am wondering, as you think about it as a person, do you have an example of just a student who you randomly met and you felt this one needed attention and you gave them attention, and right now you look at them and they're blooming and you're thinking, this is it?
You and I know, because I mean, yes, I think it's beyond biology and agriculture that works. And like you're saying, Pastor Deborah, is that when, and especially the Kenyan teachers, realize that it's a mandate that they've been given beyond biology, beyond maybe English or the other subjects that we teach, that when we identify these things in a learner, in a student, and work with them deliberately, then we bring out the best.
Out
and
of
success
them.
is for all of us. And the beauty of, if you're called to be a teacher like me, you know, the beauty of a teacher and what makes us go home happy is when you see your learners become, not only become in the grades, but also become beyond, become bubbly, become happy, put on a smile that they wouldn't even put on when you just met them or before you journeyed with them. And so it is important that we integrate this as teachers deliberately, both male and female, to have spaces where we can have our learners come in and do it deliberately. It's important.
And I'm just thinking, I'm going to ask you a very radical question, because you know now I'm a pastor. I want to ask you a question. Do you think integration of faith and learning is important? Do you think there is a place of faith? Now we are talking about a chaplain, and I say the chaplain is just, God has called you to offer presence. Now I want us to grow this and get it to a deeper level and just ask you, do you think there's a place of faith in learning?
Absolutely. I there's a question I pose to people and even to myself. And I ask myself, what is that one thing that I want to give my sons? that I want to give my daughters, that I want to give people that what is that one thing, if you gave them, then everything else is sorted. And it's a place of faith. When faith is there, plus the academics and co-curricular activities and other things that we become, is what would say wills the whole system. So yes, there's a place of faith. It is, for me, an integral part. And I think the CBE curriculum, because nowadays we might not know, is that there's a part of, some lessons or some learning areas that they've, put in a bit. But I think if it is pushed and propelled, we would really make strides, even as a country, because it is, you and I know, most of the learners that would excel even beyond the grades and are doing very well is the people that knew who they are and their identity in their faith, or the identity coming from their faith.
And I want to also bring out something. Thank you for mentioning identity, because the students we are working with, most of them are actually struggling with identity issues and struggling with, who am I? What is my worth and my value? Why am I here? Yes, I am learning Swahili. I remember I was a very good Swahili teacher, but the student has these questions. Then what? I get an A in this Swahili. Then what? There is something, Nancy, that faith does that we also need to talk about apart from identity. Faith gives hope.
It does. It does.
Faith gives hope. And the situations that our learners find themselves in and our staff, our colleagues find themselves in, I don't think they can maneuver without faith.
It is impossible.
Because there are situations that you get yourself and you tell yourself, this one, I need, you know what faith is. Hebrews 11 says, faith is the assurance of things hoped for and the evidence of things not seen.
Yes.
So you have not seen it, but you believe it, and that gives hope.
Yes.
And again, you go to the next book of James, and it talks about hope, and it says, hope never disappoints.
It doesn't.
So faith in learning gives hope even to this student to score that A.
I'm telling you. And Deborah, as you're saying that, what is going on my mind is you want, like a parent, you bring in your child, and they want to become doctors, they want to become all these things that you want them. They want, the Gen Z parent would want them to become DJs and many other things. But then at some point, life has it that sometimes it doesn't look like it. Then at this particular point, what will inspire this kid, this child, to know that they can become that which they've hoped for, that which they saw when they were still young, and they don't lose it. And for me, this when the time that then this person or this student or this nana should then have an identity, and that identity, the only way it can come is through faith. Yeah,
rooted in faith.
Yes.
Now, I as we wrap up this conversation and these episodes, we have talked about so many things. I started introducing Nancy to you as a friend, and we talked about community and growing community and how it can grow. We have given you the very, very easy tips of how we can grow community. And then we have talked to you about obeying God in what God has called you to. And then we have talked about the place of chaplaincy. Please, make sure as you teach, make sure as you work wherever God has placed you, do not despise the place of faith. And that means chaplaincy is integral. Chaplaincy speaks volumes in whatever career that God has called you to. Nancy, do you have any parting shot for teachers?
Thank you, Deborah. I think my parting shot would be, I have seen you grow. I have seen you transition. I have seen you do you and do ministry, even as a teacher. And what important thing I'm picking out even from this conversation and from our relationship is that it is important to keep true and keeping true to our faith and not even fearing, even as teachers, to exemplify Christ and just to, in our own spaces, embrace the place of faith. Even as we do math, as we do chemistry, embrace the place of faith in our spaces.
Yeah, teachers have to know that they need to embrace the place of faith and their caregivers too. They need to love love the people you serve. One of the things that my pastor told me, Pastor Zeke, shout out to you, when he was ordaining me, he told me, you are getting into a space where there are people who have never been loved, who do not know what love is, who need so much love, and who are hard to love.
Yeah.
And so I'll also tell you as a teacher, as we conclude these conversations that we've had, you will always have colleagues and students who are hard to love, who have never been loved, and who need so much love. Please be that and give care. And for you who is running whatever institution, or you who is having this group of people you are working with, whatever, even if it's not a learning institution, please remember there is a place for care, there is a place for chaplaincy, and it is very, very important. Thank you, Nancy, for being on the Chaplains Mic.
I appreciate it.
Thank you. I appreciate our friendship. And I just look forward to the many years ahead when we will be looking back and saying, see what the Lord has done.
And I'm actually, you're saying you're looking back, and I've already started to look back and see what
the Lord has done.
Yeah.
Thank you, our viewers, and we hope to see you again in our next episode. Goodbye for now.